Hey guys, today is truss setting day. As you can see, I'm in the middle of it here, but I'm going to walk you through the process. It's going to be a little bit of a lengthy video, so you can skip through if you need to. But doing attic style trusses, 32 by 56 garage, 12-foot sidewalls. So let's get started.
Alright, so if you guys are interested in seeing how this truss jib is set up for my backhoe, I borrowed it from a skid steer from a friend of mine, and all that is covered in the previous video before this in the series about setting this up, bracing the walls, getting ready for trusses and all that. So I'm just going to get right into setting the first truss here, but just wanted to let you know you can go back and watch that if you want to get a little background on what's going on.
Okay, it's time to get this truss picked up. I'm going to see how this goes here. Got to make sure it clears the wall plates. Wow, it's sitting up there. So now I got one screw gun set up with a T25 for my screws. And then I have a GRK right here ready to go. Should have a little flex. Hopefully I can scoot it endways a little bit. I'm just going to tack it for now. Oh yeah. But now I got it perfectly flush here, which this is my straight wall, so if there's any variation, it'll be on that wall. Right here where this GRK is. So now since I pre-started this, I countersunk it since I only have a 4-inch one. There, that pulled it down nice. Okay, so now that is flushed up nice there. There, I got that GRK anchored in there. Now I'm gonna put some screws in these braces here. Make sure my strap's not gonna be behind it. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna secure this one really well. So now what I gotta do, I feel really good about how secure this thing is, but now I need to go all the way up to the top, and this could be the worst part if you're scared of heights. You see I got it secured here, here. This brace, I'm directly pushing against this brace, so I'm not worried about this really. The reason I gotta get this plywood in here is to space this properly. There, now I'm anchored directly to the brace, which goes directly to the ground. I don't know if you can see that or not. If in doubt, add extra screws. That's my thinking. So I'm going to go nail that sheeting off and then check that in a few places. I might put some more GRKs up from the bottom. Usually what you do is toenail from the outside. So I'll probably do some of that as well every 2 feet or so, and it should be good.
When I get my garage project all done, I'm considering offering this for a couple bucks for a downloadable PDF for the truss plans, perhaps some extra things like cost breakdown, material lists, things like that to help support my channel. If you guys be interested in something like that, let me know. I'll put a link down in the video description below the video.
Wow. Well, that's why you do lots of planning ahead. But that went really well. Amazing. I'm really happy how that turned out. Everything from planning out the trusses to planning out your bracing and things like that, that all comes into play. So one thing that really helped out is I was able to, like I said, pre-drill for those GRKs on the ends. And these end braces worked out really good. So I got the end truss toenailed in every 2 feet about down through there. And then I got that plywood all nailed off up there, so that locks that in permanently. Then I got that plywood scrap. I did that first, of course, but behind that brace at the very top. And so that's holding really good. Brace worked out really good. So all this planning ahead is for a moment like this. When you just set that truss up there, lock it in place and it stays nice and secure. So that is really what it's all about. So then the next one is really going to be the hardest truss of the whole bunch, I think, is going to be the double truss that I have to do. I have to leave a 4-foot gap here because of stairs going upstairs with this attic style truss. I have to be able to access that, and in order to do that, I have to space this 4 feet apart, which means I have to double up the second truss since it's 4 feet out. And so that's what I'm going to work on next. Alright, so for this end wall, I didn't really think that part through, but I should have put them on before I put the truss up. I just was more concerned about getting that first truss up. So the other end truss, I'm going to remember this. But see how I'm putting all those clips up there? That's to hold the 2x6s when they go out there to support them. I figured it'd be easier to put them in beforehand instead of later, because you can put them in later. But Just putting these guys in, nailing them up there. Got just a few more to go. Since a 2x6 is going to sit right on top here, I already had these marked out on the ground, but I'm going to transfer the marks on the edge here just because it's a little easier to see. But I was just going to show this process a little bit. So if anything, keep it down just a fuzz, but I like to pretty much flush it right up. And then you can look across there and see where your marks line up. So I'm doing these every 16 inches on center just because I could do 2 foot, but it only takes really a few more 2x. Since I'm doing 2x6, I thought 16-inch centers might just be better, make it stronger. So for this double truss, I wanted to show you, I wanted to decenter the double truss instead of to the edge, just because of plywood layout and all that. I don't want to mess that up, so I'm going to go right on there. So I had to modify my original marks because I laid this out when I wasn't thinking about that. So got 4 foot to the center, did the doubles, and then I allowed for 3/4 inch plywood gusset on both sides. So I put a block here, temporary, that truss can go tight against. And I did the same thing over on that side, if you can see that over there. So I put a block there temporarily. So now I'm just going to put some kind of support, maybe about this high up, temporarily figure something out so that way the truss has something to lean against to make it a little more stable when I bring it over. Okay, so I got the double truss here, got it hanging, got everything all set to go. I got this all set. I put a brace in up there. I'll try to show you that when I get a little closer, but I put a block up there on that top of the brace, and it should hold the truss to keep from going too far, should space it correctly, and then I put some blocks up there on the wall above my ladders, so I should be able to hopefully just set it right there. So yeah, I got those two right close together there by that brace in first. Then I put one down here, and I tried to get one over there. By then it's pretty secure, but the backhoe was pushing on it too much. So I was able to loosen it and just get the strap right out of there, and it was fine because it's really calm, it's not windy. So it's sitting up there really good actually. So now I'm going to go through and put all the pieces up. The nice thing with having those hangers up there is now that's going to keep them all in place as I nail them up through. And I don't want to secure them all permanently right now because I don't know how straight everything is. But I do want to get all these put in and then lock some of them in, and then I can kind of side it and work it as I go when I get some more up there.
I don't mention this often, but I do have Instagram and TikTok at SmartEasyDIY. If you guys want to follow along on there, you can get a little more behind the scenes on some projects.
Okay, so last night I got this all in, and then this morning I continued on, so I wanted to show you. It was pretty dark last night, so I couldn't show it very good. But what I did is up there on the roof, I got all those put in, and I tacked every so far, like 2 or 3 of them, maybe one in the peak, a couple in the middle, one at the bottom, to space them, to tie them all together overnight. And then here, I did this all by measurement in between here for these ones. I left this opening for the stairway here. That hanger might be in the way, so I left it. And so then I got these all in over to here, and I sided down through here, and this is nice and straight. I know the wall is nice and straight, so what I'm doing is straightening this top part. It's very critical to get this as good as you can. So what I came up with, since I have braces in the way outside, I'm putting a string line on the inside. You can see I got a block right there, running up to the peak up there. I got one, so I did one side, and then I'm doing the other. So then I'm going through and loosening all those and straightening that end truss. And I know this one isn't perfect because it was nailed together, and as a double it's harder to move now since it's all nailed together. But it's not too bad. But my main thing is I want to get that end nice and straight, and I might have to put a couple more braces along there before I continue with trusses. But it's very important that this first grid gets really locked in and tight and solid. So that's what I'm working on, spending a lot of time on that, getting that ready to go. So here is a top view of this. Just put an 1.5 inch block. I put it on the outside of my gussets here and then just measured off of this. When I was in a spot where the gussets weren't, I just measured the difference 3/4 inch more. But I just did the same as what I've been doing all along, just putting a block here. These are all really secure, even if they're just in those hurricane ties on the end here. So I got that. Of course, I forgot my screw gun. But I got this because it's hard to sight down on the outside here, doing it this way with the outlookers. If you didn't have the outlookers over the edge, these things here, you just did a normal overhang, then you'd be able to sight the truss a little easier. But the way that I did it, this is kind of how I had to do it. So just to kind of give you ideas of how to straighten it. Well, morning guys, it's another new day. So I'm off this week working on this thing. So this is pretty much what I got done in a day. It might not look like much. I got 3 extra trusses set yesterday, but what I did also is I also got all these ceiling things in, which I had told you about, I think earlier. I got all that top secured. Mainly I wanted to get this as a self-supporting grid that will brace the rest of these trusses. So there's a lot of care that has to go into the first set of trusses, the first two, of course, getting that first N1 brace and everything, but then locking these all together as a grid, which I'll kind of climb up there and show you a little bit from the top down, my process of how I did that. Okay, so before I head up there, I wanted to show you these. I'm using these structural screws, 5/16 by 6 inch. These are GRKs. There's different brands that make these, but these are nice long lags that go up in there. So what I wanted to show you is I only had some shorter ones earlier, so I countersunk them a little bit, but I didn't really want to do that for all of them. But what I like to do is run up from the bottom up and see it goes in a good 3 inches into there. So it really sucks that down and holds it there. I like the toenail, but since I'm going into plywood gussets here, I like to add something more than that. And you can't do a normal hurricane tie here because of the plywood gussets in my situation. Normally you can. In my case, I can't, so I'm doing this, and I might do some kind of a different kind of bracket here or on the side here later. But for now, I think this is going to anchor it really well.
So this video is at a later date, of course, but I did end up putting 2 rafter ties on either side of the trusses because with the 3/4 gussets on either side, they can't use the regular hurricane tie. So I had to do the individual ones and do one on each side.
We don't have any kind of hurricane codes here, so it depends on your type of situation. You might have to do something different. And then I'll take you up top and walk you around a little bit. All right, so you had seen how I did this end over here. And so what I did here, when I was putting these guys in, actually I toenailed all these as well. Some of these have screws from when I temporarily set them. But here, you can see I like to toenail in beside the hanger just so it holds really well. I used ring shank nails, and I did that on both sides. I did the joist hanger nails in the rest of these. So the same thing over here, I went through and toenailed all these down into here, but then to hold them better, I put the joist hanger nails in here. So another thing that you can do if you want, you can cut blocking and put it in here. So the only thing with doing blocking in here is it would shut off any kind of ventilation going this way, but usually ventilation you're concerned about in the soffit going up this way. So in this bay, I'm not going to get a whole lot of ventilation. I will a little bit under here, but since these go this way, but I pretty much had to do it this way to get my stairway in here. So then just to walk you through a little bit how I braced and squared this. So this double truss wasn't quite as straight as this one. I wanted to straighten the end one. So I actually skipped over this measurement because this is all locked in with this now. So since this can vary just a little bit, I wanted to go with this one. So I went off of the end when I measured layout for this next truss. So I skipped the 4 foot, went to the 6 foot. I don't know if that makes sense, but in my situation, that's what I did. So what I did is I squared up from the end here, and I made a mark 6 foot. Now the layout is going to be the same as a wall kind of idea, where it's 6 foot from the outside to the center of that truss. So I marked these out ahead of time, but I didn't want them sticking in the way for setting the truss because it could bump against it and cause problems potentially. So I put a screw in here. That's the only screw I put in. Then I loosened it a little bit and I let it hang down. It was rotating. So that was just to hold it temporarily while I set that truss. I did the same at the peak and over on that side. So then I'm trying to think as I'm up here talking anything else that would be helpful to you. Oh, also I went down in the attic down here in the center and I did the same thing because I wanted to have that secure. And then as I went, I added 2 more blocks. So my next plan is I'm going to set another truss and then do another 8 foot 2x4 here and then remove these little blocks because then the 8 foot will do that and then it'll do it without sticking way out over. And then I think I'm going to use these short blocks again until I get a little far enough. Then I can put another longer one on. I just don't want to get out too far where it's going to be in the way for setting the next truss. because I've had that before. If you have a lot of control over your machine, like an extended boom forklift or something, which I don't, but it's good enough to get it up here, then you can tuck in under the truss, even if you have a 2x hanging out over, and you can kind of just pick it up a little bit and scooch in. But I didn't want to go through all that hassle, so I think that's going to work good for me. I'll update you how it goes. But quick recap, I'm going to set another one, then do another 8-foot, and then probably do a couple 2-footers there. So then once I got this all set as a unit, I didn't want to go any further until I get this all secured really well. So then I ran a brace inside here on both sides of the attic there, you can kind of see. And so I secured that the best I could. I just used a scrap 2x4 block to hold that to the end truss. You have to get creative a little bit. And I just wanted to run a diagonal down to this one. And I did the same over there. You can probably see it up there. Maybe I'll just go up here. So I put a screw in every one, just to make sure that it's all locked together really well. So there you can see. I ran this one up to the peak, all the way down. That's a 16-foot. And then just did the same thing. A little 8-footer down there, a couple 2-footers. I'm doing the same here on the peak. So usually, if you can get the peak secure, if you can get about halfway down or so secure, the wall is secure already, and do that on either side, then you're in pretty good shape as far as keeping this in place as you go along. That's pretty much the recap of how I'm doing that. Hopefully that makes sense, give you some ideas when you go to do yours. So yeah, here's another look at the bracing really quick from underneath here. So I wanted to show you the outside again. I had showed you that earlier, but I got that really tall one that goes all the way up to the peak, close to the peak. So that's holding that, and I got this wall braced really well. And then got one over there. And of course, all these wall braces help for going sideways, like for this way, all the way down through there. But yeah, then you just kind of make it self-supporting. Oh yeah, I did that attic brace as well. Instead of just these ones spacing it this way, I got a diagonal going this way. Then I got those diagonals from there going up to the top, and then those ones from the peak coming down to there. So overall, it's really pretty nice and secure. Okay, I thought I'd walk you through the process from the time I bring the truss in, I get it set just on the wall, and I get the top pretty close. When I get up there with the 2x4, I can space it. I don't want it too close. A little further away is better than too close. So then the first thing that I do, see how I didn't get it quite up to my blocks? I usually go up, say on this wall, and I get that shoved over. Then I go to this end. Okay, then I got this one. That's what's nice about those blocks. You can just push them tight against and get them right where they need to go. So then you can see that block gets me really close to my mark right there. So, because I'm always marking that edge of it. So I wanted to show you 3 different places that I checked. So right up in here, can you see where that bottom piece is coming across the bottom cord? See how it's right there at the edge of the wall? That's what I'm trying to line up for. The other thing, since I have a tall enough ladder on this side, is I like to go out here once I have existing tails and sight down through there and then check them, because you can see they all line up down through there. I don't know if the camera can show that the best, but I like to do a visual like that just to double check, make sure that that's looking good. And then another thing I like to do just to double check, or triple check actually, because I'm doing it 3 different ways, is I hook on to the end out there and I measure to the wall at the same plane, so that way it's the same, and it should be right on 19 inches in my case. So that is good. This part looks good, and the tails all line up with each other. That way I know that everything is running good. Now I can fasten it. Once I got that all positioned for the end, then I make sure that my mark is good. So then I toenail this side. Since I'm right here, I got my screw gun, since I need it up here anyway. I move this block right ahead to the next one. Line it up with that little tick mark. So that's good. And what I like to do on the ground here ahead of time, I make marks 2 foot. And even if these are over, like here, it still gives you a reference mark. So you know that end is good, this is long. So now before I toenail the other side, because this thing is slightly tipped, I like to get this part done. Grab my screw gun, try to hook that on my belt. And I'm not worried about it since it's right against the jib there, so there's really no place that it can go. Now, while you're at it, you can double check. 2 foot edge to edge, center to center. That's all good. But now that I added this 8 foot, I'm going to go ahead and fasten it all the way back. Since this 8 foot is now going to take the place of my short blocks. Now the reason for putting this brace on before fastening this side of the truss or lagging it from underneath is the truss was slightly tipped out. You remember how it was leaning against the truss jib? Slightly? Now it's straight. I can toenail this side. So now I usually leave the lagging till last. I like to go over and get that insecure and then come back and do the lags last. So it's pretty much just the same process. It's still not quite secure, but it's a lot more secure than it was. Now you can see where it'd be really handy to have more than one person, because one person can run each side, one person driving. So ideally you'd have one person driving, one up here on this side, one over there, and man, you can set trusses in no time. So I got to come up and down numerous times for each truss, as you can see. But it's definitely doable. You can totally do it by yourself. So I didn't show the process completely because it was just going to be really long, but after I had put that spacer in right there and spaced it over there, fastened the two sides, then I went up to the peak and I can actually walk across from that end over there, right on those collar ties, and I secured the top. Then I came down, lowered the boom down, and then got up in the attic to space that. While I was up there, I unhooked the straps from the truss jib, then went over there and undid the straps there. And that's it, besides putting these GRK lags right into the bottom cord there over there. Wow, it has been really nice, all the progress I made today. I got 11 sets so far today. Getting braced straight and square is the hardest thing. Once you do that, it goes pretty good. So I just got unhooked from that one. I'm going to go hook up to another one. Man, so I'm just over half. This thing is starting to look really big. It's looking awesome though. I'm so excited. So, man, that pile of trusses is gone. That really opens things up around here. It's almost hard to remember how much room was around here. I wanted to show you my process a little bit. So for this, the way that I'm hooking up the straps, I actually have to hook on the side that's going to be towards me when I'm setting it. So I pretty much have to pick this up with a block of wood, get the straps under here, and then I pretty much know right where to put the end of this thing to hook it up. So I have to do that in order to get this thing out of here. And then in my particular case, this hook here has kind of a knob on the top. I don't know what you call it, but it's sticking up. Sometimes it catches right under here, and I don't like that. So I pull as much tension as I can, and then it ends up riding about in here, and then I try to pick it up from there. So that works pretty good. Man, if you ever get a splinter, it's best to get it out right away if possible. It's always nice to have a sharp utility knife around. Get that out. Anyway, what I was saying before I got the splinter was, so if at any point there's too much footage to go through here, you guys feel free to skip ahead. Some people like to have more details, so I always get asked to share more details, so that's what I'm doing, is sharing more details of how things work. And if you already know all these things, you can just go ahead and fast forward through the video till you get to the part where you like it. So, just a thought. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and hook this up, and then back up out of there. That 2x4 will just fall down. This is the process from when I grab it and pick it up. So that slack I was talking about, I have to back up and pick up. Then I kind of go forward at the same time as I'm picking up. There we go. Got it swinging free and clear. Boys are back there on the plywood pile to watch me from a distance. I try to keep my load low, hanging low until I get to where I have to pick it up. Even though it's not that heavy, it's out there a ways, so it's just a good idea. Always keep your weight down low until you have to get it up where it needs to go. Now I got to max it out, pick it up all the way in order to clear. Not sure how much of that you can see, but hopefully some of that. Nice and steady. Sometimes once it gets going, it swings a little, but then if you time it right on the tails, you can have it catch on the wall. I'm trying to stay over from center a little because of my garage door here. I don't want to run over the edge of that metal. And then I try to swing it in after that. That's why the angle of the dangle is off a little bit. And then it's just a matter of jockeying it back and forth. There she goes. Hey, there's a cute little footprint, one of my boys, when it was on the truss stack. All right, now, while I'm on this side, I like to go up and do the peak because that peak is on this side and it saves a step later. So I already know I got a 2-foot block up there. But now I make the long trek up here. I like to go up this. This gives me a really nice ladder to go up. Makes for a long ways. By the time the building's done, I'm going to either be in seriously good shape or something. It's going to keep me young or make me old. I like to tell my wife, good thing I'm still young. I'm up here, it's getting towards dark, and I'm slinging 2x4s around, climbing up on the peak of the trusses. Good thing I'm still young. If you're scared of heights, ask a friend that's not scared of heights to come help you. Trusses are fun. That's beautiful. Right on 24 inches. All right, time to make the long trek going down. Make sure that's tied against my block. Well, the next thing that I do, I'm in the backhoe again. I don't know if you can see that very good, but since I'm up past the side of the peak, I have to back up and put it down kind of at the same time, very carefully. Go back, go down. So you have to clear that top part there. There we go. And then I don't want to go too far down, but because I still want some slack in there. Because then when I go up there, because I got to go up on the attic floor again and space that, and then I'll unhook that while I'm up there. But I wait to do that until I got that all secure. For this part, I usually come up the same outside wall where I have the big step ladder, and then I go through here. I don't go through the end one because it's not secure yet. So I like to get those secure. And then while I'm here, I can do this. Now I don't really need to show you all this probably, but I just undo the strap and send it down. Well, it's another day. Got the John Deere warming up. Man, this truss jib has worked out amazing for what I needed. So this is where I got last night. I did 14 trusses yesterday, which I've never done anything like this before, like this scale. The biggest trusses I've ever set by myself was that shed right there, 10 by 16. So this is a step up, but with the right equipment, I didn't know if I could do it by myself, but it actually turned out pretty good with strapping it in 2 spots like that. Keeps it pretty stable, go nice and steady. But yeah, did 14 yesterday. So the hardest part, of course, like I've said before, is getting that end straight and square, braced really well. Then you can fly. You can just go along. So really excited with how this is coming out. Okay, I got one truss to go, laying over there. That's the end truss. That's the one I've been wanting to see. Oh man, am I stoked. Look at that thing. So I got all the trusses up at the last one. I decided to leave it off until I build this end wall. So I have to build this end wall next, then set the truss. This time I did put the hangers on up there. I don't need it on the bottom cord this time because this is only a 2-foot spacing, unlike the other side was 4 foot because of the stairway. So this side is only 2 foot. So I put those hangers on up there for the outlookers. They're going to be a lot shorter over here, 4 footers instead of 6. For one, I don't want to set the end truss because the top plate isn't on over there because this one's going to overlap the end wall is. But I just don't want it in my way either, so I can nail from the top down and things like that. I'm thinking about building this wall in place because I don't have any help here, and it's going to be big heavy headers like over there, 2 garage doors, man door. So I think I'm just going to build everything in place. I'll try to show you a little bit of that process as I go along. But man, I'm so excited to have this done. So much work. I think this is the hardest part of the whole build, getting the trusses set, getting them all done properly. So I'm really happy to have that done. That is a lot of work. One last thing I was going to mention is this plastic definitely did the trick. You can see there's oil there. So the backhoe has a leaking cylinder on the front bucket. It just leaks a little bit. Usually I don't have it tipped up so far up for so long, but that's it. And one by the outrigger leaks a little bit. It's really not enough to be worthwhile fixing at this point. If you know old equipment, you know what I'm talking about. But I really am happy that I put that plastic down. So if you have a leaking machine, you got a brand new floor, if you got some plastic, it's a good idea to lay it down. So the other thing I did, along with plastic in the floor, is I knew I was going to be driving in the middle here. So I protected this metal edge right here to protect my door edge, that metal edge. Put some 2x6s down right up tight against it on edge and also up there. And then I heaped the gravel up over there. That way when I drive up over, it softens that and I don't damage that edge. So if you have a similar type of situation, that really did the trick nice. Just kind of mounted that up over. You can kind of see there. I tried to offset my tires so I was going there, but I couldn't always do that to get it centered. So that's just an idea too. Well, it's a new day. I'm working on this wall. It rained all day yesterday. So it was wet in here, wet and muddy. Still kind of wet, but the sun's coming up. It's going to be a beautiful day today. So I was going to give you a really quick overview of this wall that I'm doing. I'm building it in place. I'm not going to record the whole thing today just because of time constraints, but what I'm doing, since I'm building it in place, I decided it's just going to be a lot easier with having 2 big garage door headers and no help today. And yes, I could build it and probably stand it up with the backhoe with that truss jib that's on there still, but I don't really want to mess around with that. I think this is going to be just as easy. So what I did, I put the studs on the ends first, so I had a place to fasten my top plate. And then I put this stud right here, and I braced it temporarily off of the truss there. So I was able to do that top plate, set it on there, fasten it. Then I was able to go over here, did that stud, ran that top plate over, and then I screwed that together right there where the two come together. So that pretty much just sat right in place till I could get that in fastened, get that stud in. Then I leveled everything just to make sure it's all good, plumbed it. I think for now, just for ease of getting the headers nailed in and stuff, I'm going to leave this stud out. Even though this is a whole stud gap, I could easily get my nailer in there. I think it'll just be easier to get these headers built next. So that's my plan. I'm going to get the jacks, whatever you want to call them. Some people around here call them trimmers, what finishes the door out. So then I'll get the double trimmers here for the garage door, get those in. That way I can get the headers in and get the cripples above it. And then I'll do those studs last. So that is the process. So I got this front wall built. You can see I got double garage doors, man door over here. So I got that done and got some plywood on where I could for some shear strength. I got that braced up to there just to get that wall straight. And then I set that last end truss. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm straightening everything. I wanted to kind of walk you through how I straighten things a little bit. So yeah, so that's holding the wall. So then the next thing that I did up here, well, when I set the truss, I like to do it kind of like the other end. I set one kind of third of the way up or quarter of the way up or so, the way that I was doing it, which I can show you there from up top, but then one towards the peak, one over there. That's how I kind of left it last night. And then what I did, since that end over there is plumb and straight and square, I'm measuring everything off of there to make sure that my measurements are the same. Okay, so I'm going to take you up the ladder. But so, yeah, what I did is I hooked a tape measure all the way over on that end on the wall just to double check. And I was 56 foot, 1/8 inch. So I'm an 1/8 inch oversized overall. Checked it on this side, checked it on the other, checked it in the middle, crossed in the attic there. Everything agreed it was the same. So since this end truss is set down for a 2x6, I can't measure right to there because it's not on the same plane as this. But I measured to here with the square, made a mark here. So that's how I figured it out. I made sure that this last truss was on layout from over there, that it was right at 54 to the center, because they can grow a little bit when you're spacing them temporarily. They can shrink or grow a little bit. I found at the top I was about a 1/4 inch. It grew, it only takes a 1/16 in a couple spots to grow a 1/4 inch when you're spacing them out. Which I know when I do the plywood, that's going to space it perfectly. But for right now, just to get it close, this end truss has to be on for this measurement to be right, or else you're going to get things off. So that's what I did. Made sure this was on layout. Wherever I was measuring at, I made sure it was on layout. Then I measured from that end. I squared up, hooked the long tape on, and then I measured all the way over here, 56 foot, 1/8 inch. I'm going the same as the wall. That way everything is square and plumb off the wall. So I did it here. I did it in the middle, kind of where this line comes across. And then I did it up at the peak. And then to straighten this end truss, what I'm doing, since there's no braces in the way this time, I don't have to do it inside like I did on the other side. I'm doing a block here again to space it. And I got one right here. I put the screw close to the edge so this knot doesn't interfere and hold it out like this. I hooked it up in the peak. Then I went through and measured. So it's 1.5 inches in between the string and the end. Same as this block, all the way up. So I did that on both sides. Now I got this straight. So then I went through and straightened this truss, and I put some screws in temporarily to hold it. Now I can go and nail everything off, but that's how I make sure that everything is off of measurement, is the same as the other end, measuring from the other end, since I know that end is good. And then I'm going to plumb and double check everything, but that's how I do it. To measure, make sure it's straight and square best you can, but that's kind of my process to do that. So I just wanted to show you that.
Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment down below to let me know if you're getting information that's useful out of these videos. Next video coming up, I'm going to be doing all the overhangs, getting them cut off, square, straight, and getting that all figured out. Get ready for some sheeting, so keep your eyes open for that next video. Thanks for watching, guys.